How can you anonymously own real estate? And what does it look like for this to be covered so that people can't find you? I had an interesting consult with a client the other day who is an author. She was publishing under her real name instead of a pseudonym, and she was worried that as she was buying her own apartment, it could be that people will look her up, locate where she lives, and be able to find her or stalk her. This is something that she's very worried about, so she wanted to know what is the safest way for her to purchase real estate when anonymity, not being able to know who is involved, who owns it, or who lives there, is the actual most important thing. There are two ways that we can do this. The first way is a trust. A trust is going to be a vehicle that we can put real estate into, and there has some benefits and drawbacks to that. The second way, which is a preferential way, is an LLC. Now, again, there's benefits and drawbacks to everything, so let's talk about them. For the trust, you can name a trust anything you like. So if you want to purchase your home and put it in the Sun, Moon, and Stars Trust, that is going to be the name that shows up on your tax rolls. If, however, this trust has you as the primary trustee because you want to maintain control of your assets, that is something people will be able to find if they know where to look in the county rolls. Let me show you. Search IQS is the location where most people or most counties in New York have deposited their county records. Not every county is the same. So if this person knows in what county in which you live, if on the back of that book jacket you've placed, I live in this beautiful town in upstate New York, they'll be able to go onto Google and open up Search IQS. I've opened up a private tab so that you can see what others see if I was going to search records as a guest. Now, as an attorney that uses these records every day for my work product, I have an account. You can create an account. You can either buy an account for one day and then you're going to pay 65 cents an image after you pay $15. Or like me, you can have a monthly account and that gives you a discounted per image amount. But we're going to go back. We're going to search records as a guest because let's say we don't actually want to put any money into this. Now, here we are inside the search data. If you are a new purchase, meaning you've bought something after 1985, your index deeds are indexed on this first page for the search. So we can put in here, and I'll just put in the word trust. We'll see what shows up. It might have too many results. Whoa, here is trust, all of the trusts that go through. And these are all the public county records that need to be on file so people can search and see. So here we are, and we've got a survivor's trust that is from 1998. We've got, as you keep scrolling, trust company, trust bank, trust for Lisa Michelle, and you'll see Lisa Michelle. This is a common one. Trust Company of Vermont is the trustee of the Thomas Spina, Lillian Spina Irrevocable Trust in Decatur. This is from 2025. I'm going to take a look at this doc and see what we can view because that looks like an interesting example. Okay, so in our free version of looking at this, I'll shift myself over. You have to pay $5 to be able to see the deed. Now, if someone really wants to stalk you, they're probably going to pay the money. But just from the information that's gathered on this front page, you can tell that this is a deed that has Thomas and Lillian, the Irrevocable Trust, and they are giving this document to the receiving party, the Lillian Spina Trust. Now, on here you'll see Lillian Spina is a trustee, Thomas Spina is a trustee, Timothy Spina is a trustee, and the Trust Company of Vermont is a trustee. So my guess is looking at this particular property where we can also find our address and we can also find the attorney that recorded this, that this is likely going to be a residence that was created for this trust. And when we look at these types of things, it's probably a residence that was created so that this would escape probate or maybe start a Medicaid look-back period. Now, what this tells me is where the property is and then guessing who possibly could live there. So even if the name of the trust wasn't named after the people who are the grantors, but instead was something general, the Sun, Moon, and Stars Trust, there is still going to be a listing of who the trustee is in the public records. And that's because when trusts own property, a trust is just an agreement. It's just a document. It's not a human being. And because it's not a human being, even though it has its own agreement, EIN, all of that, there has to be a person nominated to be in charge. So if this is a trust that you're going to open that's a revocable living trust for yourself and you plan on being the full trustee, yes, the tax rolls may say the Sun, Moon, and Stars Trust. But if someone is efficient enough to be able to look up where the actual deed is located, on the deed you'll see that the title has vested in the name of the person, comma, as trustee of the trust. So if you're worried about someone coming to your property and stalking you, this may not be the best option for you because you're still somewhere on the deed. And if someone is that dedicated, this, as you can see, this is not that hard of a search to do. And this is what I've done, and I haven't even spent any of the money, right? I haven't even paid the $50 or the $5 to be able to do this. I will also be able to say, looking at this information, because I know where I'm going, I can go to the Otsego Real Property. And there are many Otsego counties, so I have to do real property, but also New York. Here's our real property tax services. And then I can go through here. You'll see the real property lookup link. We're going to agree to our terms of service. And then on this, I'm just going to put in a name. And I'm just guessing. Here's the name of all of the trustees that are in charge of that particular trust. Let's click it. So I can see from here what the tax ID is, what the property is, as well as in this public information, all of the addresses. This says everybody lives in Del Mar. I don't believe that for 1 second. It likely is not. However, here's all the addresses of the owners that was placed on that deed that I couldn't see from this particular page. So I'm going to go back through and I can even tell this is in a certain fire department. These were the additional parcels involved in this particular transfer. What else went with it on prior deeds. Even how many bathrooms, bedrooms, kitchens, the size of the house, the year it was built, as well as all of the tax information for the tax rolls. So if somebody really wanted to stalk you, this is a great way. Now you'll notice something here though. This particular property has what's called a basic star exemption. And that is a benefit to putting your property in a trust if you still live in the property. So if you look at the property and you see basic star, that means that that property is being used for residential purposes here in New York. If you don't see basic star, that means it is usually owned for business purposes. The star exemption is a credit that's given to people, and it is a school tax credit that's given to people who reside inside of the school business. How much it is depends entirely on the amount that they're giving back to you. It's different per property, it's different per location. But the fact that it's here and it started in 2019, ends in 2049, tells me that this is a primary residence of one of these people listed on this particular deed. Okay, so that's important for you to understand that if you go with the trust option, someone who is savvy and knows what they're looking at can find this information very quickly. Now I'm going to go back to the image viewer and go back to search, and I'm going to do something else. I'm just going to type in LLC and we'll see what shows up. Okay, we have LLC Soriano Properties. Now, this is probably a couple of names, but let's take a look at this. This is an easement. All right, so this isn't a deed, it's just an easement, and this is an easement for an electric co-op. I can see LLC Soriano Scoco Properties. I'm going to go back to my search, and maybe I'm going to look them up. I hope I'm not doxing anybody. All right, I'm going to go here. Boom. Oh, no documents were found. Hard to find. All right, let's think of the name of a company. So maybe I want to do this reverse. I'm going to go into this section. We'll go back, and we'll do a name match, LLC. And let's see how many people show up with LLC. Ooh, here are some good ones. Here's an LLC that's named after the location itself. We're going to click it. Okay. Now, I'm going to go into my search. I'm going to do 100 Main. And let's see what shows up. We'll try to figure out who owns this. All right, so we see this as an LLC. It is a commercial property. When I look here, this is definitely a commercial property in downtown Cooperstown. I'm pretty familiar with it. So scooching down, we've got all of our assessment values, all of our information, the sales dates, the historic deeds of how many times this has been transferred. So we can take a look at those books and pages. Moving on through, we've got our county, school, village, and tax bills with all the assessed and full market values, all the taxable values, maps, just maps. You'll see in here that you'll notice because it's a commercial property, there's no star exemption. That tells me that no one is personally living at this address. Now I'm going to go back into these search results and I'm going to take a look at this deed. All right. From this side of it, we see it was sold by a corporation. We see it was sold to an LLC. We can see what property it is. We can even see how much they sold it for, and we can see the actual attorney's office that did this. But what we don't know is who owns it. All right, so that's not readily apparent. I can go back into my search and we can take a look at who they are again and see if there's anything else in their name. This is the only thing that they just popped up into this particular county records on this one transaction back in 2024. All right, now let's say I want to be a little bit savvier. I'm going to go to the New York State Corporation Database. And from here, we're going to skip all these guys. These guys are just all salesmen. From here, I'm going to, this is where I want to be. The Division of Corporation Business Entity Search. Check my business name availability. That's going to be my search. Describe it, move on through. All right. This is how you do it. Let's go into here. Now, this, you'll see secretaryofstate.com New York. This is a scam site. I don't want to use them. I'm going to go back. I'm actually looking for DOS, the actual DOS website. Wow, look at how many scams show up if you don't search this all the time. Here it is, dos.ny.gov. Boom. This is the physical site I need to go into. Important updates, corporations, businesses, certificates, non-compliance, copies of, certificate of status, articles of organization. This is how we file all of these pieces, and I want to see if I can find the DOS search on here. Here it is, the Corporation and Business Entity Database. So you'll see it's apps.dos public inquiry. Now the name of what we were trying to find out is 100 Main. And it was 100 Main Cooperstown, but we're going to start with 100 Main. I don't care if it's a corporation, limited partnership, etc. I'm going to search everybody. All right, here's our 100 Main, 100 Main, 100 Main Development, 100 Main DOMS. All right, I'm going to scooch over here 1 through 5 and 19, and I'm going to take a look at all. Move myself up here. Boom, 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 boom. Here's 100 Main Street, Cooperstown. That's the one that's in the Otsego County. That's the one that was formed right before the purchase of this property. So we're going to click on this and we'll see what we can find. Okay. Here's our information with our filing date. This is the entity name from the LLC. You'll see it's domestic liability company, that it's active and it's current. Service of process. This is the person who is going to be collecting service of process for the owners of the company. Now we'll see on here, Garo Gazagan. That looks like a very familiar name. I'm going to go back to these search results over here. And if we looked at this and viewed it again, that's the first name of the attorney's office who filed this deed. Wonderful. So this is a lawyer, clearly not the owner. And we're going to scooch through. Chief Executive Officer, Principal Executive Offices, Registered Agent's name and address. That's the service of process. These are all things you do not have to fill out. They are on this website, but you don't have to actually show this to the government. You don't have to give this information to the state. This is all carried off in the operating agreement. You'll need it to move title when they go to sell the property. We need to know who's actually a part of this business. But that is a closely held relationship. Any stalker who's going to come online and try to find you is going to be met with, there's the lawyer's office, that's not helpful. Shoom, 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 no information. There's a couple of different things I can click. Name history with a file number. These are not public information of the articles of organization. Number 2, don't actually file your operating agreement with the state. You do not have to do it. Filing history, we'll see where they've got their biennial statement served. The articles of organization, certificate of publication that makes it a true entity. Biennial statement is every 2 years. That was filed this year, just a few days ago actually. Merger history, there is none. Assumed name history, there is none. Here's the DOS ID. All right, now we're going to go back to the Googles. I'm going to copy this. We're going to see if we can find this. Nope. I guess I didn't need to type that. sends you right here to the division of database, right here to this, right here. Licensee searching, what the IDs mean, certificate of status requests, which only can be done by owners of companies. So if you want true anonymity, the LLC is the way to go. However, if you are residing in that property, we'll go back to this part, you'll see that there's no STAR exemptions, that all these taxable values are held at a commercial rate. This is not going to be considered, and that's the school tax. You'll see there's no exemption, there's no STAR savings, boom. For that school tax, they get $0 back in school tax. So if you really want to have anonymity, you have to sacrifice some of the residential benefits. But an LLC can absolutely do the job for you, provided you use, again, back to our certificates, our public inquiry, provided you use a different service of process registered agent on your behalf, so that your name and your entity isn't there and isn't published under you. It can be published under a lawyer or under a different individual. If you're looking for anonymity, I hope this helps you. I understand that the internet can be a scary place, and I almost felt bad about doing this video showing people how to find all of this information, but quite frankly, it's something that you need to know is fairly easy for people to get. So again, maybe a trust isn't going to be the right option unless you have a trustee that you trust that is not you with a different name, but the trust will collect and keep your STAR exemption if you're residing there. An LLC is probably the safest way to go, and being able to have shell corporations of LLCs, very, very good for you to be able to move through. However, you sacrifice some of the benefits of having a private home because it will be considered a business asset. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please let me know.